Welcome to the Off the Beaten Career Path podcast. I'm your host, Katie Myers. Here you will find the inspiration, strategies, and tactics needed to reach the next level and beyond in your small business and career. Thanks for joining us and get ready to put these ideas to work for you. Hey, and welcome back to the podcast. I am super excited about today's guest. Her name is Christine Hopkins, and she is a coach focusing on sex, love, relationships, and female sexuality. She comes to us today with a diverse background in connecting with and supporting people. Christine began her professional career in human resources management. Over the past 16 years, she has supported several local organizations in capacities with growing levels of responsibility. While working in these roles, Christine has always found herself connecting with employees at a deep level during times of need. Christine's growing passion for meeting people where they are and holding space for them as they navigate personal hardships took her to exploring how she could support people as they transform during these times. After studying under Layla Martin and learning the Vita coaching methodology, Christine launched her coaching practice, The Intuitive Unraveling. Through her practice, Christine focuses on empowering women as they strip layers of deep conditioning and find alignments in their own truth. In her practice, The Intuitive Unraveling, Christine works with women to witness and support them in deep transformation on their journeys to healing. Christine believes that a key portion to healing that is often overlooked is connecting with and getting to know your sexual self on a deep, intimate level. In her experience, self-love and self-acceptance does not happen without this. Welcome, Christine.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I am so excited to talk to you today because you are an HR professional by day and business owner with the focus on sex by night, which I find to be very unique.
Yes. And very unique in like HR of what HR is and what it represents. And then, doing something a little bit different in my own personal business.
Yeah. So I think most of my listeners have probably, unless they know you personally, have never heard of the kind of work that you do. So could you explain a little bit more about what the Intuitive Unraveling is?
Yes. Actually, thank you for allowing me to do that because I think that people hear the title Sex, Love, and Relationship Coach and they say, what on earth could that be? And they get a little scared. I do want to say that I am in the phase of transitioning my title right now as we speak. I'm going to be focusing on sexuality and shadow work. So I want to add that in as we're talking today. It's just not formally announced. But inside of my coaching practice, I basically work with women, both one-on-one and in group and event settings. And I help women connect with what I call the body mind, which is the part of you that is living unconsciously in your brain and actually guiding a lot of your life. So I help women connect with that part of themselves, sometimes through their sexuality, sometimes it's not through their sexuality. It's just really whatever is alive for that person. So that is what I do inside of my practice.
So how does the sexuality piece come into it? Because it sounds like you do work that's similar to like what a lot of life coaches and other kind of coaches do, but how is your practice different in bringing in the sexual piece?
Yes. So people come to me to work on things that are not necessarily related to their sexuality. What's really different for me is that in my own personal experience, I really found a deep part of myself when I leaned into and got to know my sexual self, right? This part of me that I was shamed, this part of me that we don't talk about, it was through learning that part of me that I found deep healing, deep integration in different parts of myself. So what's different about me is that if you want to come and talk about not being able to orgasm, I'm here for it. Let's talk about it. Let's understand if you have limiting beliefs that are preventing you from getting there. You want to talk about, I'm not feeling connected to my partner. I'm here for that type of conversation. But if you also want to talk about, hey, I feel like I'm not where I want to be in my career and maybe I'm limiting myself, we can talk about that too. When we're doing that and going down that route, I might actually invite you into using pleasure, maybe sexual, maybe not sexual, but pleasure to aid in your healing process. So that is where it gets a little bit different than what other people do.
That clears it all up. So the people that you work with, like what kind of things are they generally, like what are the problems that they're coming to you with? You said like some people it's that they're not orgasming. Is it usually a symptom like that, or are there other things that drive them to first connect with you?
So I have actually had a lot of people come to me who are working on their dating life. Maybe people who are noticing, gosh, I'm attracting the same kind of person. I'm not understanding why. So I do a lot of work with people who are dating. I have done a lot of work with people who are looking for more inside of their sexuality, right? So maybe it's not necessarily the I can't orgasm. Maybe it's the I don't really feel a lot with my partner. I don't feel connected to my partner through sexuality, or, right? It's a lot of different things, different for different people. But yes, I have had someone come to me and say, I can't orgasm. Can you help me with that? It's really interesting to see when people are given a platform, what is actually going on that people aren't really given a space to talk about.
I can see how that could be so true. So can you tell me what made you interested in this type of work? Like, why did you decide to start this business?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot there. I probably could sit here and talk to you for 2 hours and tell that story. But I'm going to start with being this woman who decided to go into human resources management, right? I was in college. I had a really hard time kind of nailing down what I wanted to do. I changed my major 6 times. I went to 3 different universities. I just couldn't figure it out. But I knew that I needed to get a college degree. And I said that in air quotes because that was a belief that was conditioned inside of me, right? So I knew I had to get this degree. And I just ended up in human resources because I wanted to help people. I started in the field and I started to feel like I was helping people. And then I got, in higher positions. And the deeper I got into my career, the less I felt like I was helping people. And I was feeling like I was kind of abandoning who I was when I would go to work every day. So with that, I've made some changes of what I do inside of HR, and I've made that career fit better for me. But alongside that journey, I also started to seek healing in myself. And like I said earlier, I fell into this part of me that I wanted to understand more. And when I opened this door for myself, this door that, my gosh, I was closed so hard and with so many locks, I had to really fight to be able to open this door to connect with that part of myself. And once I was able to open it, I just really wanted to be able to provide that same container to the people around me, the women around me. I wanted to start to give women permission to have conversations and to know that there is so much more available to them.
I absolutely love that. So tell me a little bit more about your career in HR. So you've been doing that for 16 years. What do you love about it? What have been like the high points of your career? Like, why have you stuck with it this long, and why does it really work well for you?
Yeah, sure. Gosh, 16 years, when you say that number, I'm like, no. So I graduated college back in 2007. And so I ended up working in the benefits department in a local organization. I never, ever, ever in my college career thought, oh yeah, I really want to talk about PPO plans and, deductibles. But I ended up, that was really in 2007 when the market was really dry. I was really lucky to get this job and I ended up in benefits. And benefits has a book this like rule book that tells you how you can do things, right? So like if somebody says I didn't fill out my plan on time, well, I go to this book and it says you can't do it, so I'm sorry, you can't. I did benefits for many years, and then I kind of got to this place where I said, all right, I'm going to be siloed into this part of human resources unless I decide to diversify myself a little bit. I'm going to be in benefits forever. So I decided to step into the generalist world, and I worked in a factory. I did, employee relations. I worked with the business leaders to help from an HR perspective grow the business. And I stepped out of that black and white world and into the world of so much gray, right? And I found myself, gosh, I'm trying to think of how many years I was a generalist. That must have been about 7 years of my career. I was an HR generalist and, HR manager, whichever title you want to tack there. It was kind of growing levels of responsibilities. But that gray rocked my world. And from an anxiety perspective, I just realized that just is too much gray for me. And I actually then had to make a choice to step into, I'm now doing human resource. I'm an HRIS analyst. So I work in the information system and I configure, things inside of the compensation plan, so on and so forth. So I'm out of the gray and back into the world of a little bit more black and white. So that is kind of how my career went. Why has HR worked for me? That was one of your questions. I continue to love to be able to show up for people and to support people. I do a little bit less of that now that I'm in, an analyst role and I'm more sitting behind a computer, but it really, that's working for me right now.
That's good. So when did you start the intuitive unraveling business?
Sure. So the actual LLC started in the beginning of 2022, but I had actually been studying and I want to say practice coaching for a little while. I wasn't doing anything under a business, but I was kind of playing in that space for about 3 years before that. Nothing that I really thought was going to matriculate into much, but I did get an education as it relates to the VD coaching methodology and female sexuality. So there was a little bit building as I stepped into that space. So I've been actually coaching for about 2 years.
Great. So one of the things that I find most interesting about you is that you absolutely love your career in HR. You have no intentions of leaving that behind anytime soon to go into your business full time. And I think a lot of small business owners, that's their goal. They want to leave the full-time job, or if they don't, they're or they don't even want to admit that they're not ready because they're ashamed. They think that people are going to judge them because of the money and things like that if they can't afford to do it. But you are so happy running both of them, and that's your plan. So tell me about that.
I think that the realistic thing for me is that I have been living in the corporate world for 16 years, and I do have stability, and I do have that beauty of a stable paycheck. And I have a family, 3 kids, and I really want to chase my dream. And I am chasing my dream, but I also know that I'm a little bit of an impulsive person. I also know that I have tried a lot of things. So I also know that it's okay to do this slowly. I wanted to do it, I'm going to do it in air quotes again, right. And when I say right, I mean right by me. I wanted to do it in the way that was going to feel most real and true and good to me. And that's slow, right? That's slow. Would I love to leave my full-time job? Someday, yes, but it's just not today. I think realism, that has to be the word that really comes forward for me is a realistic truth that what I'm trying to pioneer is new. It's scary to people. There's resistance, and I'm really here for that. I'm here for the long haul. And so that's why I think it's okay to do it slowly and maintain my stability for a little while I'm building.
I think that that's a really interesting take on it. And I think it's so great that you have been able to take a step back and think of it that way, especially because what you do is so different. And for our listeners that don't know us and where we live, I mean, we live in a very conservative area, and what you're doing is definitely different and outside of most people's comfort zones. So can you tell me if you've come up with any, have you gotten some judgment from your community or people who have been really negative towards you as you've started this journey with your business?
100%. There's like different phases of it, right? There's people who are very blatantly judgmental, don't understand why I feel so called to this work. And that's fine. I simply have gotten to a place where I say that, that's just kind of where they are in their own sexuality, and that is fine. I have people who are quietly judgmental, right? When you have somebody who's watching, but also maybe quietly judging, those people do exist. But then I also have so many people who have gratitude for what I'm doing, who are celebrating what I'm doing, who say, "Holy cow, you're so brave. I wish I could be that brave." And those are the people that keep me going. Absolutely.
I love
the people
that.
Keep me going. Yeah.
I love that so much. So how has that been? So I think that that's something that as a business owner myself, and if you want to go and put yourself out there to start a business, you have to be vulnerable and you open yourself up to a lot of criticism. You really opened yourself up to criticism by choosing the career path that you did. Did you have to do like any mindset work around that, or did you struggle with that, or have you always been able to really focus on the positive and the people supporting you?
Did I have to do mindset work? Every day. Do I still have to do mindset work? Every day. Do I have days that I cry and I say, "Oh my gosh, this person said this comment to me that hurts so deeply"? Absolutely. But then when I take those moments, I do get down sometimes and I do say, "Gosh, why in the heck am I doing this?" But then when I lean back into those people who are cheering me on, who are so proud and lit up by the work that I'm doing as well, when I lean into those people, then I'm reminded, okay, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm doing this. My work is important. And I just keep showing up.
Speaking of the people who support you, what has this adventure been like? I know you have adolescent kids like I do. How have you explained this to them? What's this adventure been like for them as they've, as mom's had a new side gig?
So if I try to think about this and put it in perspective for their ages, my oldest is 14 and I started on this journey probably when he was 9 or 10. So mom having a book with the word orgasm on the cover and having it lay in the counter, I raise my children in a very sex positive home. And I want to say age appropriately sex positive. I want to be super clear on that. But they have absolutely, I sell glass sex toys. And so one day there was a box sitting in my living room and it was there for a few too many days. And one of my kids felt uncomfortable and they're empowered to share those things with me. Right. And, one of my kids, she's 12. She said, "Mama, some of the kids were talking about your TikToks at school." I said, "Okay, how does that make you feel?" She didn't really love it. So she just decided to unfollow me and disconnect from me on social media from that way so that her friends aren't so that I'm not showing up in her friends' For You pages. So, you know what? We're talking about things that make us uncomfortable and we are pivoting as we need to. That said, my children are also being raised to be what I would say are a bit of pioneers. So I do desire to tell my kids that it's okay to show up and do the hard stuff, that it's okay to not be totally accepted by everybody around you as long as you're being true to yourself. That's what's most important. So I think that if it ever does become a bigger problem, or I think we'll be able to navigate through it. I do.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're a great mom. So you guys will be okay.
Thank you.
So speaking of being a great mom, like how do you manage this all? So besides, building this business and working a full-time job and being mom, what has that been like for you? Have you had to get really creative with your schedule? What can you tell me about that transition?
Yeah, well, let me throw one extra little caveat in there to make it more complicated. I'm married to a firefighter, and so he works 24-hour shifts overnight, and it is a rotating schedule, right? So I am not the person who can go to yoga classes every single Monday because I don't know if he's going to be working that Monday, right? So there's not a lot of consistency as it relates to the schedule. And so I think what I would say to you in that question is we do our best. And my husband and I really try to put everything on our Google Calendar. Literally every appointment I put, client at 6 p.m. I write it in our personal calendar so that we have the ability to have constant inventory of who is where. And other than that, we have worked really hard to create independence in our children. So they do know how to cook dinner. They do know how to clean up after themselves and put things away if I'm going to be home at 8 or 8:30. I do have specific nights that I say no clients because this is family time. So I do carve out some time specifically for my family. I do ensure that I go to all of my children's events. We're always on the go. But we have just really working on staying connected to each other and understanding what the load is, when it's too much, and talking about it.
Yeah. And I am in the same boat with you. We have raised our children as well to be really independent. I mean, like they have been doing their own laundry forever. They have their own chores. And it really came for me after a point when I remember I was just having a day. I was so frustrated working full time with 3 little kids. And I called my mom just crying and saying like, how did you do this? Like the house was clean. Like, I feel like I'm drowning. And she was like, oh, I worked part-time till you were in high school. You don't remember? Like, oh, that's why. And then that was the point where I'm like, okay, I don't need to do it all. We're going to have to all pitch in because this is not realistic. Why was I holding myself to that standard?
But also think about the fact that your kids are going to go, and I actually think you have some children who are out of the house. Yes?
Almost 18, a senior is my oldest.
Okay. So, but just imagine when your 18-year-old is out of the house, they will have the skills to, live. They will have the skills to do their laundry, to cook their meals, and survive without you. They will be independent people. And I think that's what's the really important part, right? That's
I didn't do my own laundry until like I moved too far away. Like the first place I moved to, my mom would come and pick it up and do it, bring it back. So I'm very glad, which is so embarrassing to admit now, but I'm so glad that my kids are learning those skills so they don't have to be embarrassed that they don't know how to do laundry at 20 years old. So
no, I love your vulnerability though. And I love that you share that you had it that way and you chose to do it this way. I think that like, that's vulnerable and important. So I celebrate that.
Thank you. I love it. So it sounds like you manage it all. It's a lot of chaos with 3 kids and everything. But so what are your goals for your business? Like, how do you see it growing and what do you hope for the future?
I'm going to speak big picture, like no holding back, and just speak of what I desire for my business. As I'm married to a firefighter, I'm also younger than him. So I will actually be quite young when he is retired. So when I am 47 years old, which I don't really want to tell you how far away I am from 47, but when I am 47 years old, my husband will be retired. 100% retired. And my goal would be to have a business and or practice that is something that I would be able to pick up and take with me and see the United States with my husband. So my goal would be to have a coaching container by that time that is remote, that is fully supportive of myself. I do also desire to not just be a one-on-one coach. I do desire to be a, public speaker. I do desire to support women in larger settings than just the one-on-one setting. And I want that to take me places, right? I want that to logistically, physically take me places. So that is my long-term goal for my business. I really want to be in a place that I have freedom, time freedom. I don't even want to say financial freedom. I just want to have enough.
I love that. That was one of the driving factors for me behind starting my own business too, is my husband's 15 years older. And I thought, I don't want to be working 60 hours a week at a corporate job when this guy is retired. And then I just, retire in time to like put him in the nursing home. I was like, I didn't want that.
Exactly. And not to get into like marriage 101, but what a space for resentment to grow, right?
Yeah.
Heading off to work for 15 years and he's kicking his feet up and relaxing. Like, I don't want that either. I want to be in the space in life where my husband is. That's really what I want.
I love that. Well, this conversation has been great. Christine, is there anything else that you want to share with our listeners about your business or any exciting things you have coming up?
I think the biggest exciting thing that I have coming up, like I said, is that I am actually working on a little bit of a transition as it relates to my title. And I'm going to be moving from sex, love, and relationship coach to a sensuality and shadow integration coach. So I'm just real quickly going to say, and you know this, Katie, but both of my parents have passed away in the last 8 weeks. And through that process, I have actually personally kind of like gone into very deep, dark places and excavated a lot of stuff, and a lot of creative juices were flowing during that time. And I'm really excited to be putting out some content and work specifically as it relates to the shadow. So I would say, follow me.
I wanted to ask about that. So tell me, so I've seen the shadow work journal on TikTok, like being sold. I don't know what that means. So what is shadow work?
Oh yeah, that's such a good question. And I think that the reason why I'm attracted to it and the reason why it's coming out of my sex coaching background is that the shadow self is any part of you that you have pushed aside or denied or created a different version of you to basically keep yourself safe. A lot of shadows kind of develop in childhood when we are trying to ensure that we are receiving the love and acceptance from our caregivers. And we kind of develop ways to make sure all of our needs are being met. These shadows are things that sometimes we disconnect from our entire life, but they are like embedded into our nervous system. And they are embedded into our brains. And so these things, these parts of us that we don't know, are actually running our life. That's a really big statement, right? And I think a lot of people hear shadow work and they think they're bad parts of me, right? Like evil parts, dark parts, but they're just parts. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm intrigued. I cannot wait to hear more about what you're doing with that. It's very interesting and it makes total sense. I mean, I can see how, things are just ingrained in us and we never stop to think because it's just the way we react.
Yes. I'm going to give you just one little nugget to like chew on. And that is that through this past 8 weeks, the version of me that I met, the version of me that was very alive in my behavior, but that I was not consciously aware of was showing up, was the victim. And when I say that, and I mean a part of me that had major victim mentality and would react to hard situations as a victim. So understanding what shadow work would be meeting that part of me, understanding her. Why did she have to show up earlier in my life? What is it that she was trying to keep me safe from? What feelings was it trying to keep me safe from? And just getting to know that part of you will really, really, really like allow you freedom.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for your time, Christine. I cannot wait to have you back on the show after you are traveling around the U.S. and running your container after your husband retires when you're 47 in 25 years, right? So
Yes. I love it.
All right. Well, you have a great day, Christine. It was so nice visiting with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Off the Beaten Career Path podcast is a Lit Path Studios production and is produced by Jamie Gale and Katie Myers. Music is by Sasha Gray and Pond 5. If you enjoyed today's show, please leave us a review and share it to your social media. Remember, your career path is up to you to create. Keep exploring, keep pushing boundaries, and keep blazing your own trail.